Okay, I think we'll get started here. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending here. I think there's still some people trickling in, but we'll get started. So, first, let's start with some scenarios here that you might find yourself in today to really set the stage of what we'll be talking about here. And we'll come back to them throughout the presentation. So first, suppose that you've built a business, it's going well, and you're thinking about expanding. But of course, there's some things that you want to keep in mind. Of course, keeping the high service quality that you've built to date, while also managing the increasing operational costs that come with expansion. And so, you may think that this is not going to be too difficult. Of course, it's just expanding what you've already done, but of course, every stage of business growth comes with its own challenges. And so, really, that scaling challenge is coming down to maintaining service quality as well as maintaining those ever increasing costs and keeping those at bay. We'll come back to that, but another scenario here is around steady businesses. You built a stable business, it's operating well, but you're looking at reducing your operational costs, whether that's to improve your profit margins or maybe to combat inflation. And so looking at reducing those operational costs, but also maintaining or increasing your service quality. Two very different contexts, but of course, generally the same goals. But before I dig into those a bit deeper, my name is Zane Franson, and I'm the VP of Platform and Operations at Simply Ask AI. And really what I focus a lot around today is our flagship AI automation platform, Symphona. Now, why I'm standing here and talking about these scenarios is that I do speak with hundreds of business leaders, startup founders, operations leaders every year about how they can improve and optimize their processes, as well as leverage digital technologies. And to put some more background there, my company, Simply Ask, we've been doing this for about 10 years now, and so we've seen many waves of technology come and go, both around how to use it to improve processes, as well as just things that may be appearing to be hype, like AI. So my objective for this presentation is not necessarily to persuade you to work with us, although we have a great team that would love to do that, but really to give you some ideas to think about how you could supercharge your business operations with practical AI solutions. Okay. I think where to start this conversation is around the sifting through AI hype. Now, for starters, when I'm talking about AI, I'm actually talking about large language models for now. And so if you've used anything like ChatGPT, it's going to be the same technology that's behind that. But there's a lot more you can do with it than just what you see through ChatGPT, and we'll definitely explore those today. Now, where we want to go here is maybe what AI can't do, or I mean, it can do, but maybe you shouldn't use it for within your business. And so, first of all, replacing creativity. We definitely see that AI is able to generate art and things like that, but we're not seeing it making massive breakthroughs or coming up with innovative new products. So it's really a tool to help your creativity. Another is around understanding complex emotions. We all know that these chat systems can understand if people are happy or sad or whatnot, but there's a lot more nuance to human emotion, and so that's another thing. Making ethical decisions. I think so far as a society we've decided that things with ethical implications probably should still be made by humans. So that's definitely one there. And then providing legal or other regulated advice. AI can be great for drafting legal contracts and whatnot, but you probably want to get a professional to review that before you get yourself into a mess. Now, that's what you shouldn't use it for. There's definitely lots of areas you can use it and you should be. One is automating tasks, of course, so routine tasks that you might be doing regularly, repetitive things. So that's definitely something we should be looking at it for. Enhancing decisions, pulling information from all the different data systems that you have so that you can make better decisions and just speed up the process instead of you having to sift through everything and figure out. Regarding personalizing experiences, so this is more on the customer service side, but providing better service in terms of connecting up these AI systems with customer data so that they can provide more interactive customer services experiences, not just like your standard chatbot. And that ties into this last one about facilitating communication. But I think when people think about AI chat, they kind of think of it like on a website. And of course, that is one way of using it, but other ways, include hooking it up to email systems. So, people can get automated responses out of that. Will they know? Probably not, but it does reduce the cost, of course, by providing service that way. And then other ways like connecting up the phone lines and whatnot. Now, a term that I mentioned a couple of times, and you would have seen in the name of this presentation, is AI agents. So let's talk about that. Now, simply put, an AI agent is a digital helper that will help act, decide, and solve tasks autonomously. And so, it's important to point out that, again, we're not thinking about just these AI agents in terms of providing automated customer service. Again, that is something they can do. But also thinking about it how they can help accelerate your team behind the scenes, internally. And so that's actually a big piece of what we're going to dive into today, because I feel like that's the lesser talked about area, but really where you can see a lot of efficiency gains. Now, in terms of how these solutions help, of course, you can answer questions. And so this can be based on information that you provided it about your company. Maybe it's trained on all of your website content, or maybe if you're using it internally, it's trained on your company policies, procedures, other things that, of course, ChatGPT doesn't have, but would be beneficial for you to be able to quickly access. And that ties into the next one, finding information fast so you're not sifting through thousands of documents trying to find an answer. And then analyzing data, suggesting improvements, that's another point in terms of connecting these systems up, giving them tons of data points so that they can also draw conclusions to help you, more readily proceed with your operations there. So, we have some quick examples here. We're going to dive deeper into them, but one, I know they're quite small to see here, but one's, for example, for technicians who may be delivering services at a client's house, and so they want to have procedures on how to do that. Well, they can quickly search it up instead of skimming through a ton of PDFs to figure them out. Another one is talking about more so for internal employees looking for pricing information. Again, you have documents on all of this, but instead of having to find the right one, especially if you have a ton of different products or services, being able just to quickly query it, get it back, get references, and you could do further reading if you had to. So yeah, really just to reiterate, we can think of them as accelerators to really help you more quickly accomplish what you're doing. It's not really a replacement for what you're doing, but to accelerate and to remove some of the tedious or mundane tasks that can be done automatically. Okay, so let's go back to scenario one. You have a growing business, but the challenges ahead, of course, you want to maintain high service quality, but you also want to keep in line operational costs. And so there definitely are solutions out there in terms of deploying something without using any technology, and we'll talk about those. You might consider optimizing your hiring strategy because you are growing. You're going to want to probably proactively hire a little bit in order to reduce the strain on your existing employees. Another one would be around enhancing onboarding or your knowledge sharing, so reducing the amount of time it takes to spin up new employees and making sure that everyone has the same level of knowledge across your business. Another one would be around more refining your customer prioritization. So this is really more applicable, of course, if you have different value of customers. So, of course, you want to provide higher level of service quality for your higher value customers, but that becomes more exaggerated or relevant as you continue to scale. There are, of course, digital solutions, and specifically AI agent solutions, since that's the focus of our conversation here today. And so one of those is the AI customer service copilot. And so the idea there is that to help your existing customer services teams deal with a higher volume of customers, you'd be able to give them a copilot that they could easily use to, again, quickly look up product information, company policies, but not only Q&A, of course, that's one piece, but more interestingly, helping them submit or fulfill requests quicker. So for example, if you're often doing refund requests, instead of them having to go into maybe your CRM, into your ordering platform, into all these places, they could actually just chat with the agent, say, hey, I want to do a refund, here's the info, submit, and then behind the scenes, it would go ahead, interact with those other digital systems you have and handle that request pretty much fully autonomously. So really just helping your existing team members do more with less. Now, in terms of the other option here, we have capacity forecasting agent. So this is an example of connecting it up to your different data systems in order to forecast, what resources you'll need in order to deliver your upcoming services. So just reducing the operational overhead of all of that planning. Another piece is the external self-service agent, and so that's talking about having your customers themselves actually quickly find information or submit requests themselves and have those requests automatically fulfilled. So very similar actually to the internal one, the customer service co-pilot, but something you can also place externally. And there's generally differences because maybe you won't put all of your policies and information externally, whereas other information you'll keep just internally. Now, let's talk about the second scenario here. And I guess one of the key things to note as well is that, to be honest, these different solutions would apply for probably both stages of growth. The ones that we were just talking about before are talking more about handling increased customer capacity and whatnot. Here we're talking about, and we will be talking about, how to improve the existing processes that you have. So starting again with some of these non-technical or non-digital solutions, we have, of course, negotiating supplier contracts, so reducing the cost of your inputs. And so, you could be doing that on a regular basis. Regarding the consolidating redundant processes, really, creating a map of what your team does today, and then looking at what steps maybe aren't that important or could be removed or reworked. And definitely a lot of gains can be found there. And then executing quality initiatives. So this is similar to the last one, but looking at what areas are causing the most customer pain or dissatisfaction and seeing how you could rework those, or you could go ahead and, lost it there for a second. Go ahead and put in new processes in place. Now, regarding the technical, AI agent solutions, so one here is doing, data analysis or quality analysis here automatically, and so that would be looking at hooking up, these AI agent solutions to the maybe customer interaction data that you have in order to see and have it analyze, what was a bad experience and suggest improvements on how that could be improved. Other areas we see the same type of idea being applied, though, is maybe you have it process, your monthly bank statement or something to check for irregularities or other flags that you want to put in place. So you can do that as well very easily instead of having to manually, skim through all this data. Another is around scheduling, and so similar to the forecasting one that we were talking about earlier, having the AI agent look at your upcoming demand and helping do that resource planning for you. And then basically you're just having to approve it and put it through or maybe minorly tweak it. And then at the bottom here we have a customer email support agent, and that's going to be talking about how you can hook up these AI agents to when an email is received, have it automatically process it, maybe provide an answer back, not just a simple auto reply, but a comprehensive answer based on your company's documentation once again. Or you can have it go ahead and trigger a request. And so that could be in the case of if you're handling a invoice or an invoice that's coming in, you might want to go ahead and create a manual task for that. Okay, so through all these use cases, you might be thinking, this sounds interesting, but how is it actually possible to do? I've been just talking about, of course, high-level use cases, and I'm sure you're also busy enough, and you don't need to take some more onto your plate, or you may be thinking this sounds complicated, and it can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be, luckily. And so, you don't need to be a technical expert to leverage these AI tools today. And what I mean by that is it really depends on what tools you're using to set up these solutions. In many cases, if you can describe it, you can build it if you're using the right solutions. So those tools exist, and in fact, Symfona is one of those. But the idea is to build solutions, using drag and drop editors, describing the solutions of what you want the system to do, just in English, so you don't need to be programming or anything like that. And probably most importantly, looking for solutions where you can just have out-of-the-box templates that does most of what you want it to do. You can just click start using. You can get it up and running at your business, just tweak it a little bit, and it's all good to go. And so when you're leveraging solutions like that, or tools like that, I should say, you get all these other benefits as well. Like, of course, it's easy to build. You're using no-code stuff. You don't need to be a programmer. The other item here is around empowering all team members. So you can supercharge the ability of anyone on your team to set up these AI solutions, trying ideas quickly, because again, you're not doing any coding, and focusing really on your business objectives rather than the technical implementation, because you just need to map out what you want the thing to do, and then you can basically just tell it what you want it to do, and it'll all work from there. Okay, but actually how? I know I've been throwing a bunch of info at you in terms of use cases and the benefits of non-technical tools. But what does it actually look like? So let's set something up here. In, I guess, the next 5 minutes or so, we'll start setting up a AI agent, the customer service copilot one, actually. And then we'll wrap up after that. But let's actually see this in action here. And this is going to be interesting because I need to use this as my display over here. Let me just refresh. So, of course, today we're going to be using Symfona as our platform of choice, but it's really just illustrating the power of these no-code tools, and I'll zoom in as well, just to open it up once I get over here. Okay. Larger. All right, so we're just going to create one, and we're going to pretend that we are the TBS support team, and that's for the business show here. Just because I've had it pre-prepared with the knowledge base, but the idea is that we can create a new agent. And once we do that, we're really just describing in English what we want the system to do. Again, we're not programming here or anything like that. We just say, how do we want the conversation to start? We'll just leave it. It'll just say, hey, what do you want to do? But the key piece here are the objectives. So these are, what are the things you want it to be able to do? In our case here, we want it to find event information. Okay, so find event information. Almost got there. Where's my mouse? Here it is. We'll find event information. So that's what we want it to do, because this is for the TBS support team, and they want to be able to quickly pull up information from their knowledge base. And the possible actions, that's basically what do we want it to be able to do in order to fulfill this objective or this task. And we're going to tell it to search a knowledge base. And so here we can just write search knowledge base. It's hard to type here with one hand, but autocorrect saves the day. So search knowledge base is what we want it to do. And then we've actually already set up the knowledge base with all of the event information in here. And so we can just select, the TBS Miami support. I'll show you that in a second here. But the idea is that we can have it search that knowledge base. Now you can do a lot more than just searching a knowledge base. As I mentioned, it's not just about Q&A, but it's also about triggering requests that actually automate manual tasks that your team would be doing today. And so what we might want to do is let's just say submit customer submit customer request, almost. Okay, submit customer request. And from there, instead of it just searching a knowledge base, we wanted to perform some actions. And so what we can do is we can select a different option here, like executing a workflow process, which does a variety of steps to complete the task. And we'll select our process, and I'll show you that setup earlier. But the idea is that maybe we'll just use this one, for example. And then we can see it will collect some other inputs to trigger this process to fulfill the customer request. So it'd be talking about the request type, the details, maybe the customer's full name, their email. All that's configurable, and as I mentioned, there are templates actually for different use cases that you can just simply import and start using. So that's one piece there. There's this other field here about guidance. This is generally just added to help the AI understand what you're trying to do. And then there's a few other things we can configure, like what AI model. The industry is changing so quickly these days. We give recommendations on what to use, but we're just using the standard GPT 4.0. Same thing actually behind ChatGPT. And then lastly, we can set up some other configuration where we basically give some context to AI about what it's doing, and to help it kind of guide its responses. So we're just going to tell it that you're a AI chatbot supporting internal customer services teams, team members of the business show conference. And then lastly here, we could set up other things like multilingual support. It can answer questions in any language. You can have it collect feedback. For the demo here, we're not going to touch on that much. All right. And then I'll just pop this in here as well. Great. Just a little bit of a description there. And that should be most things here. I think I just need to provide this. Yep. Submit. Request. Great. And then we'll save that. And that's all you need to do, actually, to set up the AI agent. So we'll submit that. And while that's going, let's also go ahead and look at the knowledge base side. So as I mentioned, open a new tab here. We can go ahead and set up AI knowledge bases, and this is where it's providing responses to your questions from. And so in our case here, we've actually trained it on the entire TBS website. So when we ask it questions, it will get answers pulled directly from the website. ChatGPT doesn't know anything about this event, so we'll see that it's able to provide good answers about the event. And then we can also upload other types of knowledge bases. So commonly, we'll see teams upload files or zip folders of tons of files. And, we work with companies that have uploaded thousands of files in order to sort through their policies and procedure documents really quickly. And so you can just put them here. You can click create and add it in, and within a couple minutes, it'll be ready to use. But for now, we're just going to stick with our knowledge source here. Lastly, before we see it all running and we finish up here, is around the processes. So this is about the actions that these AIs can perform. And so if we look at one of them that we have set up here, this is the one that we actually connected. And this is around the request submission. And I'll just minimize a little bit here. We can zoom out. And so the idea here is that you can set up a process that will do various steps. It's again drag and drop, there's no code, you're just mapping out. You can even do it on paper, map out what steps you want it to do. You can drag and drop and build it here. So maybe it's going to create a manual task or a service ticket. You can add other steps here too, like maybe you want to send an email to the customer, just drag that in. Maybe you want to send like an SMS, you can drag that in. Maybe you wanted to update your CRM or any other digital system you have. You just drag in an API step here. So very easy to build it out, and you just need to, again, drag and drop and just map out, think about what you wanted to do on paper and bringing it over here is just a matter of creating it. So let's wrap up by actually interacting with this thing, and we'll go to Agent Tester and we'll leave the page. As I mentioned, these AIs can be used here. This is mostly for just testing and playing around with it yourself, but you can also put it on your website, maybe your internal intranet or your any other web portal you want to put it on. And we'll just set it up with TBS support team, and we'll just set it up to my default one here. And so the widgets and all that are customizable. I'm not going to go into any of that for now, but the idea here is that it's going to ask us, how can I assist you today? If you're looking for information or submitting customer requests, if you have help, great. What we're going to ask it is, let's see, tell me. So we're just going to search up for a vendor, which is us, and we'll just tell it to show us some information. Tell me about Symphona. And we'll just say event info. Tell me event info about Symphona by Simply Ask AI. And so what we will likely see here, and what we are seeing, is that it's now consulting its knowledge base. And so that was the entire website of the business show. But again, it could be documents across your business, could be policy documents, procedures, whatnot. And we should see here shortly that it will give us a response. So it's looking at the information that it has, went back there, looking at the information it has been given in here. And so you could also give it multiple knowledge bases, maybe have some public information, some private information, but the idea that it's quick and easy setup, and it's doing definitely a lot of thinking here. Let's see. Okay, let me try again one more time. We'll just restart here. Great. I know when I set it up here, I missed something in the configuration, so hopefully we'll get what we're looking for. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and adjust it. But I think what we're missing here is just, here I just need to tell it, search knowledge base, find event info. Okay, so that should probably fix it once we come back over here. Yeah, so let me adjust that. This is definitely different than how I set it up before. And then this will be submit request for customer. And we'll go ahead and deploy this here. Okay. So we'll save that, and that should probably fix the problem. We can see actually here that it found some info from the knowledge base about the event, but let's try it again here. Tell me about Symphona by Simply Ask AI. And so here we can say event info. It's just asking a clarification question. And then here it is consulting the knowledge base, which is why it does take a little bit of time, but we should be getting an answer back. And so as I was mentioning before on the slides, commonly, we'll see teams using this for looking up procedure information, maybe for people who are going on site. And we can see that we get some information back here about, Symphona will be at TBS. This will be our stand number. And it even gives us a link to the TBS website, which of course brings us to the page where it would have been found on. So you're getting references out of that. All right, so just to wrap up here, in summary, this really only scratches the surface, and what I just showed there was a very, very simple example. There are templates that do much more valuable and complex tasks, but the idea is that you can leverage these AI agents using non-technical tools to really drive your growth and reduce costs. So yeah, once again, I'm Zane Franson from Simply Ask AI, and thank you for attending the presentation here.